a pleasure to have you.
I'm proud to be part of your inaugural episode.
We've been
somehow contributing to you crafting this new show of yours.
It really is. Like, we've been talking about doing something like together for a long time. Like, we started our website because I moved to Japan, so we wanted to like hang out together still. So we created the website and stuff like that. And for the last 10 years, we're like, yeah, we're going to do a video series at some point. And then I really wanted to do something where we just talk about nerd stuff. It's not too, everyone talks to voice actors or something about just the stuff they're in, but it's also cool to hear about what they actually like to do outside of that as well. So that's why we wanted to do something like this, just to talk about what everyone loves and see their passion. So
I love it. Did you guys meet in Japan or after?
Unfortunately,
just based on a love of.
I have never been. We met in college many years ago, and we've been best friends ever since. And then he left me to go to Japan.
No animosity there.
No, didn't take me with
no
him
deep fire burning.
No. So that's why we decided to start a website together so we can keep doing things. And
we both we didn't actually talk in college, like
not straight away.
No. Q was pretty quiet, and we'd always just stare at people and just like I'd always be like, what is this guy thinking? And then I bumped into him in the local comic book shop. It was just after my birthday, and I had money, and I was just buying a load of manga, like loads. And he was in the manga section. We just said, oh, you're right, and just didn't really speak. And I started picking stuff out, and he just went, are you taking the piss out of me? Like, is this a joke because I like it? And I was just like, no. And then I went to pay for it, and his face was just like, oh, okay, we're into the same stuff. So
because like, I was in there just minding my own business, looking at what manga offerings there were. And then here he comes, barging in, just grabbing everything off the shelf. And then I was just like, clearly, this is some kind of joke on me. But no, he bought everything, and then
this is where I get beat up by the jocks afterwards. As I'm leaving the manga store.
And then we started hanging out, and here we are. So once I moved to Japan, we just kept doing stuff together while I was teaching and doing other stuff, and and that's it. But anyway, enough about us. It's boring.
It's not about us.
It's all about you.
Well, but we want it to be a little about. We want it to be a little about you guys. So
well, hopefully we're interesting enough to keep people entertained. But anyway, I mean, the joke always is that your IMDb page can keep people scrolling for an eternity, and it's not a joke. Like, I was picking out highlights, and Ku and I were talking. We were like, "Oh, which one should we mention? At the start, because what's going to grab people?" And I was like, "Well, you can't go wrong with any name. It's Final Fantasy, Code Geass, Persona, Ben 10, Naruto." And of course, my personal favorite, small, tiny. You may not have heard of them, to be honest, actually. And my personal favorite, on-screen Spiderman, like ever. So we could keep going, but I know you've had loads of interviews like that, so I will not go into it too much.
I'm sure I will end up commenting on them no matter what we talk about, because that stuff is such a huge part of my life, and it is also, much like what we're talking about. I consider myself very fortunate that my real life nerdy loves cross over into my work, that I was able to make that into a job to a certain extent. So
I mean, it's the dream.
I was watching anime before, I was reading comics books before, I was watching movies and all of that before I got into this, and the fact that I can make that my career is really a dream come true, that I can't every day that I wake up, I can't believe that that's actually happening.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That must be incredible. I did I'm going to try, for anyone we have on, I'm going to put something in the background that is related to their projects. I have a little Lancelot from Pogius. So
Excellent.
yeah,
There's so much stuff out there that I don't have that I feel like I should have. You know, and some people are like, why don't you have that stuff? Everybody assumes that when you work on a project, they just start sending you free shit, you know. And it happens occasionally with the good companies, the caring companies, but it's not even really thought of in most cases. So usually I'll spend some of the money that I earned working on that property to buy toys from that property afterwards, and merch. Is that actually a Final Fantasy IV shirt there, Ku? Or
it is, and I wore it specifically.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean there are, the pixel ones. I know you.
Yeah. Well, the OG. Yeah. That was it. When that game first came out, it didn't have my voice on it. That was a much later edition.
To be fair, but
well, that's a project for Square to
to
think about.
Yeah, right.
But they could do it these days, couldn't they?
Yeah,
another remaster.
Another remaster. Yeah, why not? But
I'll buy them again.
I think Ku's pretty tough now. Like he is like, I wore this specifically.
Yeah,
I was like, let's see.
I mean, I was going to point it out after you did the Lancelot. But...
And is there something nerdy buried on your shirt too, and I just can't see it because it's so small?
Yeah. Well, mine is actually Wooloo from Pokemon. It's just a load of Wooloos. So
there you go.
Yeah,
my son would have picked that out. My son is now into Pokemon. I was never into it, but now he would go to these classes with friends, and then after class, they would all break out their binders and just start trading cards. And he's like, "Dad, I want to be a part of that," because he wanted to be a part of anything. He wanted friends, and so now it's a very slippery slope.
I remember, like, they had to ban trading cards in Pokemon trading cards in my school because it was just getting out of hand. And even my kids, it feels like I remember my mum saying to me, because my birthday list was just Pokemon, and my mum just going, "This is just a phase, it's going to die out, no one will be caring about it in a few years." And now I remember when on my son's birthday list it was loads of Pokemon, I was like, this is a long phase that you said would die out. So
yeah, and it keeps mutating and morphing, and he doesn't play the game, and he doesn't play either the card game or video game or the augmented reality Pokemon, but he loves the cards, he loves trading the cards, he loves looking at the cards, he loves collecting and shifting them around, much in the same way that when I collected Star Wars cards when I was a kid, I would just I would do this with my comic books too. I would just get them out and put them on the floor in front of me and arrange them in different ways, and categorize them, and then put them away, and then take them out, and sometimes I'd read them and sometimes I just look at them. So I get at least the psychology.
It's great. It's just I had an art teacher who was like, "Oh, comic books and manga, that's not art." And I'm like, no, that's not true. Like, I would just stare at all the front covers, and I'd buy certain things that I'm not even interested in just based on art alone. It's and it's really fun organizing your stuff. Like, it's become a joke that the stuff behind me gets organized so much. Who will walk in and just be like, "Right, what have you changed now?" And it's like, you don't need to, but I just like to do it.
But it's a game. It's a game now. You're like, let me see if I can figure out what it is before you tell me what it is.
Literally every time I come here, sometimes there's big changes. Whole shelves will change, but sometimes it's something very minor, and I need to look very closely. But there's always something that's changed.
I wish sort of you could see. I wish I could like pan to all of the things on my shelves in here. It's a pretty even combination of things that I have worked on and things that I just love that I didn't work on in any capacity. And then of course there's the Spiderman shrine.
My eyes keep darting to that. I'm like, that's
that's a tough. I'm proud of that guy, because as much as I love Spider-Man, as much as I grew up reading Spider-Man, I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for this particular Earth 1048 Spider-Man, if you will, the PS4 Spider-Man with the advanced suit, because I feel a kind of ownership in that. So whenever there's an advanced suit anything, I usually buy it and it ends up over there.
Hey, I mean, it is the best, so I do not blame you at all. If I spend money on all sorts of stuff and I'm not even involved in it, so it's like, but what would you say, this is probably a tough question, but what would you say are the projects that have really stuck with you the most over the years? Like maybe even something that you weren't so interested in at the start and it became more of a passion afterwards. Are there any projects like that, or are most of them that you are passionate about?
I think my career is full of those projects, and every now and then they intersect with, oh, I fell in love with this, and so did a big audience, but certainly not always. Even though it was very early in my career and there hasn't been a lot of talk, it was sort of replaced in a way by Assassin's Creed. The Prince of Persia series, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, that prince will always be like top of my heart. Whether he's popular at any given moment or not, like he'll always be there, and I will always carry a torch for him, and hope that someday everybody gets to see the remake that we did, because I think it's gonna be great.
Really
Like
that
sometimes I'll fall in love with little characters from something big. Sometimes, certainly my career has not just always been playing lead characters, and I don't think anyone's is. I think you can go through phases, even if you are playing lead characters for a while. After a time, people get tired of seeing you in lead roles, and other people play lead roles, and if you're lucky, you get to play side characters and background characters for a while until people are not sick of you anymore. And then you can sort of have a resurgence. And yet it's sometimes those characters that I have the most fun with. There's not as much pressure brought to bear on these smaller characters, and you can find ways to just have a lot of fun, and those characters end up being really interesting. I've done that a lot in a lot of Blizzard properties. All the World of Warcrafts and the Diablos, and some of the first characters I played, and arguably the most characters I play in that sort of world, are these like little side characters, little quest characters that you might only meet for a short period of time. And if the people you're working with are cool, they'll let you really, make a meal out of it, as long as it doesn't distract from the story. And sometimes it also allows actors, at least me, it's hard for me to speak for all actors, but to explore things that you wouldn't normally get considered for. People see me as the character who plays this, and so they'll hire me for that, and then they'll say, oh, well, here's a side character, and then I get to do stuff that people might not know me for, and really sort of explore other things as well. So yeah, sometimes those I always loved Sandal from Dragon Age video game series. Like, he was this small little character, and I found this great love for him. And I recently, not too long ago, there was a podcast that I was a fiction horror, like cosmic horror podcast that I fell in love with, and I became such a fan that I started reaching out to the creator, and over time, we became friends. And then he wrote, they wrote, both he and this is Steve Shell at Old Gods of Appalachia, and Cam, both Steve and Cam write and produce the show, and they wrote me a character called the Railroad Man, which really allowed me to also, I normally play heroes, so anytime anybody asks me, and I think most actors will probably say this, anybody asks you to play a villain, you just say yes immediately, because there's nothing like playing villains. There's nothing more fun than playing a good villain. And I've just fallen in love. I was already in love with the podcast and the world that they created and their writing, and then to play this this sort of small character who comes in and out occasionally has just been, it's made me part of a community that I love. And it's the joy of seeing something you love and then finding a way to get involved with it, which doesn't always happen. There are a million different characters I'd love to play, but you can't just say, I'm going to play Moon Knight, you know, in the, like, I mean, there's auditions and sometimes you don't even get, you know, you don't even get those. So to have sort of pushed my way into something that I already loved was quite a victory for my nerdy little heart.
That definitely sounds like it's something very special in comparison to, well, I mean, fighting for something in a certain way is gonna have its own great feelings, but then coming from it from that way is having something written specifically for you is that's incredible.
And sometimes it's about falling in love with the character or the words, but most of the time it's falling in love with the people that you work with. This is a very collaborative business, and nothing happens in a vacuum. Rarely does somebody, you know, from start to finish, they're the, you know, the one person who works on it and gets all, you know, does all the work and gets all the accolades and so on. It's usually a team of people. And I have found more and more that what's most important to me is finding good people with, you know, a vision I align with, and people that I enjoy spending time with. You're going to want to enjoy spending time with the director and the, you know, the other creatives involved, and, you know, the other cast, if you get to interact with them at all. And that's gotten me involved in a bunch more indie games recently. And I find that that's sometimes the most, you know, inventive and interesting storytelling, and the more of a family, you know, aspect to the creation of it. Which is not to say that you can't find that on AAA games. Working with Insomniac on Spiderman has been one of the greatest families I've ever created. You know, and there is something to working with people who all are so passionate and all love, you know, the same thing. And there's a joy, and there's a joy I get to going to work because I know I'm going to be seeing those people. I'm going to be hanging out with those people, and we're going to be creating together. So yeah, sometimes it's because of a character on a project, but usually it's because of you know, an individual sort of family that you create.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. Especially, as my previous jobs, for example, there's certain people that I would just be so excited about, like, oh, I have this meeting today, but then afterwards I have this meeting with all these incredible people. It's, I can imagine that doing that, but on a more creative side must be really,
I think
really
that's what I
exciting.
miss most about, and I still do it occasionally, but not as much these days, just because I'm older and I have a family, and you know, I'm busy with this part of my career. But I love making independent film. I love the camaraderie that happens on that. I love, you know, being on set with a group of people who are all working towards the same thing, and where nobody's too big to not help with something beyond what they were, you know, asked to be there for. And like, I was hired to be an actor, but I will also help with craft service, or, you know, or producing, or you know, getting somebody from point A to point B, or, you know, moving something. Like, I love that group, the groupness of it, and the creativeness all rolled together. It all feels like, you know, we're in this thing. I can only imagine it's, you know, it's like, you know, when you've like served in combat with somebody, only without any of the combat, you know. I mean, it's like all the camaraderie is there, and all the tension, just none of the danger, or although I've worked on some sets where there was plenty of danger, but yeah, it's I miss doing more of that.
Yeah, it's Ku and I actually we were in film school
I thought this
together.
was going to come up
Yeah.
when you were talking about that. Yeah,
But
we made
a couple of awful.
when we acted in them. We did the
Those are the
editing,
best, though.
camera, you know. But yeah,
yeah.
it was. They might not have turned out well, but it was a fun time to work together on this.
Yeah, I just always remember we did a parody of Shaun of the Dead in our first year.
Oh my God. Okay, stop and get back to it in just a second, because I was just, whatever you were going to say next, I was just about to say, well, I can see you obviously have this Nick Frost, Simon Pegg thing going on. Obviously, James, you're Nick Frost, and Ku is Simon Pegg, obviously. But no, but please go on. Yes. a parody of Shaun of the Dead, which was already in itself a parody of. Yes.
Yeah. And I just remember our teacher just looking at us and going, don't parody a parody, just don't do it. And we just looked at each other and we were like, oh no. Like first year of college, it was like, don't
tell me what to do, man. Yeah, no.
But yeah, after that, I'd say, in all honesty, it became down to just a fight for the deadline where university became too much partying and forgetting the deadline, and then
if you're not filming your project the day before, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Right.
I just remember editing in our uni dorm, and I think we just burst into tears. We were just like, can't do this anymore. But yeah, it's a great feeling, and honestly, it's probably the reason why I think we're so close now is because we've just had so many of these
we've shared
crazy
those moments
adventures
at like 4 a.m.
Yeah,
watching the same edit over and over again.
It forms bonds.
Yeah,
man. Some of people that I'm still really close with are people that I, created things with together under very difficult circumstances. Where it wasn't cushy and you had plenty of resources and money and time to make things happen. It's always the things that you have to really work for.
Yeah, for sure. And it just feels so good afterwards. Like, no matter how it ends up, really, you just look back at it quite fondly, and it's like, yeah, that was a good time.
Those are my favorite types of
it
films.
It was incredibly stressful, but looking back on it, it's very, we had some good memory.
Yeah, I'd rather see a film I'd rather see a film that is, arguably not a good film, but that is full, where you could tell that they were trying to do the best thing that they could. There is such a beauty in that, and I would rather watch, a film like that where, it's out of focus half the time, and the tinny sound and the makeup effects are terrible, than something really, really polished and Oscar worthy or Sundance worthy, where you didn't feel like, it was like everybody was showing up to the job and everybody did a fine job. They did great. But there's that underlying level of, this is everything to us, and we'll do anything. And we don't care if it's good. We don't care if it's finished. We don't care if anybody else is going to like it. We need to tell this, parody of a parody story, like whatever it is.
Yeah, it's very true. I do wish that we called it 28 Cornettos Later. Yeah. So I wish I could say that ended up being that film, but no. But no, good memories all the same.
Hey, I played a good zombie.
You played a brilliant zombie.
Mouthful of flour, because you said close your mouth, and I said what?
No, we had no makeup on, so we used flour, we used
ketchup,
honey. It was honey and ketchup all mixed together.
It was covered in it. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
We'll try and get you a copy of that so you can watch it.
Oh my god, if that's
I don't think that exists anymore, does it?
Okay, I was going to say I'll trade you one of your early embarrassments for one of my early embarrassments.
Okay, I mean, I can tell you, I have hidden this for a long time, but I have the trailer of our very short movie, so I can show you that at least. So I will send that over, and you can just be like, oh dear. But so I also wanted to talk to you about. I know that you're a fan of D&D.
Yes.
So I think it was not that long ago, actually, you had a session that you shared on social media.
A cursed session, if you will, in that if you look at all the pictures, I'm the only one wearing a mask. We're inside, and then 2 days later, half the party went down with COVID, and I was like, oh, thank God I was the Bill Hader at the Emmys, of our campaign, because I do not. I mean, I've gotten COVID in the past, and I do not want to get it again.
No,
I'm all vaxxed and boosted, but it is no fun.
No,
I don't even like getting regular sick. So I'm glad I was masked up. But yeah, I only started really playing again about 5 or 6 years ago. I had, little in fits and starts since college, but had really not found, a good group of people to be doing it with regularly. And, until about 5 or 6 years ago, when a friend of mine, Todd Stashwick, who's an actor, also he and writer, all around good guy, for years he had been saying, I want to play D&D. And I'm like, well, I want you to, and if you do, let us play together. And then one year for his birthday, I just showed up on his doorstep with a brand new, just sort of basic kit. And then we went, and then that was the spark that he needed to then start the campaign that then I joined. But
that's cool.
I mean, I started playing when I was 11 when I went overseas. It had just, my father had, I think the Christmas before we went overseas, because of my dad's work, he worked for the Foreign Service. We were about to go overseas to West Africa, to Niger. And I think he was, I was like 10, and my father was worried that, he was whisking his son off, and daughter, but whisking his son off, to a third world country, taking him away from all his friends, and just sort of asking him to roll with it. And I think the Christmas before that happened, he bought a lot of things in the hope, presents for me in the hope that these would be things that could occupy me, that I could fall in love with, that I could maybe share with other people, so that I would have fun things to do. And he bought me that basic, D&D kit, the little box set with Keep on the Borderlands, and some basic plastic dice, and it became, and I to his credit, he tried to sort of teach me and some other local friends when we got there how to play, and then we sort of took over from there. And I could see the the sigh of relief from my dad, that I was on my way with something that he didn't have to also figure out, because it probably wouldn't have been his thing, but it was, I mean, I lived that, we played and played and played and played and played and played the entire time I was overseas. And honestly, I credit D&D with everything. Like, if there are good things about me, they're probably that way. Credit to my mom and dad, whatever. But I credit D&D with being able to, think rationally, and to explore my imagination, and, to read up on mythology and languages, and, learn languages, and to troubleshooting and social this and social, like, all of that. If I track back, I'm like, oh, D&D taught me that. And so anybody who says that, well, that you're either, I mean, the whole devil worship thing pretty much died out in the 80s, but when I was playing it, but anybody who says it isn't anything other than the best thing in the world, and super good for you mentally, it doesn't know what they're talking about. So yeah, so the answer to your question is yes, I play D&D.
Well, I mean, you've sort of just answered my next question, which was going to be, why do you think D&D is so popular now? Like, it's suddenly hit this boom, and it's connecting with so many people. Even myself, I was not into D&D until my friend from my previous job, Rob, really got me into it. Like, I've only played a couple of games because, again, I haven't found that group.
That group, yeah.
I'm hoping
it's
one day.
Too.
Yeah, exactly. It is huge, and with kids, it is very difficult. But,
yeah, very hard. I mean, I talk big, but my campaign is once a month. Is sort of, we're just a bunch of old guys, and we play differently these days, and we're and so this is sort of what we can muster. We're like, can we do once a month?
Yeah, I mean, that would be perfect. So. But yeah, what do you think it is at the moment that's sort of managing to grip people?
I don't know exactly what it is, but I can venture a guess that people are looking to connect in a different way, and that they have not, in a way that they may be, a little bit starved by, and because I think D&D is really good for connection and camaraderie and hanging out. It's, it has been referred to as nerd poker, in the past, because it is also just an excuse for friends who need an excuse to actually, make a point of getting together, to get together. I mean, I would, the difference between me playing D&D at 11 and now back then I was, and this was pre-Leroy Jenkins, but I mean, we were all Leroy Jenkins. We were like, let's go fuck it up. Let's get in there and kill things and set things on fire and lightning bolt. But now, a bunch of we're all in our 40s or more, playing this game, and now we spend like 30 to 40 minutes talking about what we're about, the next thing we're about to do. Okay, here's the plan. So, and then somebody said, no, we should, it's like 40, but back then we wouldn't even think. And now we just talk about it. Now bourbon is also a part of, D&D now that it didn't used to be when we were 11. So I'll blame some of it on the bourbon, but it also gives us an excuse to get together and drink bourbon and catch up and just be, have fun and be idiots and, do things that we wouldn't, we wouldn't or couldn't do in our own lives, and just to explore, the imaginative part of our brains and just to love each other and to love that experience. And another difference between, and this was just brought into stark focus, and I love it. Our current Todd Stashwick, who I referred to earlier, who is in the two campaigns I'm in now. He's a player in one and a DM in the other, but he says there are no bad roles, only good stories. And I'm like, oh fuck yeah! When I was 11, like we used to cheat all the time, like because we wanted to win. And as I got older, I was like, oh right, this isn't about winning anything. This is about story, and it's about friends, and so there's nothing to gain by rolling it and going, yeah, no, it's a 13, and not the one that you just rolled or whatever. And I love that, I love that it's not about, so maybe that's part of it too. Maybe people are looking for something that's, they just want to be part of a story, and it's not about winning or losing. Because if you're playing and you have a good group of people, you're always winning.
Yeah, exactly. It's again comes down to surrounding yourself with the best possible people and having a great time with them. So I know that our time is almost up. So yeah, it's gone so quickly, right. But it's been great. Well, I feel like we could talk to you for hours about this nerd stuff. So please.
Well, maybe we should. Maybe you should get some more of these under your belt. Think of some other things you want to talk about, and maybe we'll hang out again, because certainly seems like we've got plenty of things to. We didn't even talk about Japan, you guys. I was ready. I was ready to just talk about, because like if I had a second love, it's like D&D and Japan. So so I guess this is the D&D episode.
Okay. Yeah. We will do a Japan episode.
Well, it gives me
the storytelling
to visit
episode.
Japan, and then I can actually be part of that conversation.
Great.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
But I mean, you love Japan enough anyway, so I mean, you'll be able to.
All you have to do is have a curiosity about Japan.
There you go. I love it.
And that's enough.
Best plug. Best plug.
Yeah.
There you go. Japan curiosity. It writes itself.
It really does. But thank you so much for your time, and especially as you're not feeling 100%. So
this actually cheered me up a bit. No, I appreciate.
That's great. I am very glad to hear it. It is bedtime for us. Well,
yes.
So
yes.
We
are go to bed.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope we get to do it again, the Japan episode.
Definitely.
In the future. Sounds great.
Well, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Ku. And I look forward to that as well, because if there's another thing I like to talk about, and then we'll have to do a movies episode, because it seems like you guys also have a couple things to say on that.
Okay. So we've got two future ones. So this is part one.
Japan, right? Movies.
We will.
Yeah, and we didn't even go through your very long IMDb list.
That needs to be a whole series in itself.
Well, I hope that it is even longer by the time we next meet.
I am, I won't mention Spider-Man 2 because I'm too excited, but yeah.
The only beans I can spill on Spider-Man 2 is that it's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
so great.
We're
working on it right now, and I've never seen them work harder or be more excited. So
I look forward to it. Brilliant. Well, you have a great day, and
thanks. You guys too.
And thank you for coming on. It has been awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.